there, Lone
Yep,
Wolf?
I'm here, Coach.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Smack Talk Live. I am Coach along with Lone Wolf. And tonight, really, Lone Wolf, I think we just go around the world of sports. Nothing
Sure.
really too major this last week.
Right.
Um, but we'll just go through and do a round, kind of a round table on the different sports.
Sure.
And um, and then we'll get into our movie list
Right.
uh, that has become a kind of a staple for our show here. Um, so um, start with the NFL. Well, let's just start there. It's normally something
Yeah.
that kind of monopolizes our show, but there's not a ton to talk about. Um, you know, we got the Redskins who will be changing their name eventually.
Right.
Um, it's come out now. Even Madden's removing their nickname and logo from the game. It's like
Right. Yeah.
ridiculous. Um, as for you know, player movement, looks like AJ Green signed the franchise tag offer for the Bengals.
Yep, I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, that's a money move for him.
Sure.
Yeah, that's all it
Well,
can
and
be.
and yeah, and I mean he's making that now, and I mean he's getting a little up there in age. It'll be interesting for me. I'm interested to see, is he going to stick it out with the Bengals? Are they going to want him to stick it out? Because they're a lot of younger players on their team, and even if not, they're still rebuilding overall anyway. So does he stay there because he's kind of been a staple for that franchise for several years, or is he going to spend the later years of his career somewhere else after this year?
Right, and that will be the interesting thing. It's like pretty soon, teams aren't going to be lining up to try to get him.
Right.
You know, they just aren't. They aren't going to do it, and it's great if you want to do this for the money. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, ill will for that. But as a player, most players want at least one Super Bowl championship,
Or a
um,
shot at one. you
or a
know
shot at one exactly.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, there's no way that he's getting one.
In
Um,
Cincinnati. Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah, I know Vegas will put odds on them, whatever it would be to win the Super Bowl, but I can tell you right now that they're about 10 billion to 1. They're not going to win the Super Bowl. Sorry, Cincinnati fans, it's not going to happen.
I'm sitting here and I'm still debating. I might go out to Vegas for a few days next week just to before football season starts for me,
Sure.
and I might take $10 and just put them on the Bengals. Just because
I mean, and if they
if
do,
it
right? If they
happens,
do.
I make a ton of money. If I
Right, yeah.
lose, no big deal. It's $10.
Right, who cares? It's
So
$10, yeah.
so other than that, we got then Vale, you know, put out their protocol for the pandemic.
Right.
The players union is saying, you got to proceed with caution. Um, I know one thing the NFL will be doing, and we're actually going to be doing it, here locally, is
Mhm.
I think one of the companies shut right now. They've made like a full face mask visor, so you get the regular traditional eye face mask that's clear,
Right.
but then the mask goes down around the face mask, the bottom of the face mask.
Sure.
So you can't get spit on, whatnot. And
Right.
so
Right.
we're using those. I know the NFL, I believe, is requiring them from the last thing I
That
read.
would make the most sense, yeah.
Um,
Yep.
you know, and it's the first team that I heard come out officially say it, but I'm sure most teams are do the same thing. The Packers have
Right.
announced no fans at training camp practices, no fans at preseason games
Yep. Yep.
at Lambeau Field. I think that's going to be suit for every team. If I'd be shocked if there are fans at a game, at least in preseason. You
Right.
know, regular season games, I could
It's
see.
yet to be determined. Yeah.
Right. Now, one thing I do want to throw out there, because I think we both got a good chuckle at it. I listened to a lot of different podcasts, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And this guy's on the radio down in Florida. Is it Florida or New York? He's out on the East Coast somewhere, but he's in Florida. And he saw an article that the Jacksonville Jaguars are only going to have, I think, what did I say, almost 20% or 25%
25
capacity
percent, 25%
of their
capacity. Yeah.
stadium. And I told you they can finally say they get a sellout.
Right. I said to you that's probably normal capacity. So
Yeah, it's like
what's
they're
the
not losing
difference?
any money. Uh,
They're
so
fine.
so COVID's actually not going to affect the Jacksonville Jaguars at all. So so sorry, Jaguars fans, you guys have some of the worst attendance in football, even when they're good. They
I
they
mean, if I were living in Jacksonville, I'd probably go to games all the time. I mean, it's nice weather, get outside, hang out at a football game. I don't,
yeah,
it'd be great.
exactly.
But
Um,
you got to
so
watch some
yeah,
bad football. So,
yeah, exactly. So that's
yeah.
pretty much it for the NFL. There's nothing really.
Yeah, I mean, the big story was about the Redskins, and, we talked about that, and we're really not going to get into that. I think it's a social issue, and I think there's going to be a lot more. There might be some other podcasts that are going to talk about it. Obviously, ESPN has an article about it, but suffice it to say that Washington as a franchise is having a lot of problems overall, not just the name issue. And I don't know if that's going to affect anything with Daniel Snyder's tenure there, but there he's the owner, obviously, but this whole thing is a major problem for Washington in general. So
Well, right, and when problems like this come up, it's not unprecedented for leagues to force owners to sell their teams. It
right,
happened with the
right,
Clippers,
right,
and I know it's
exactly.
happened with other teams also. When there's
Yep.
this kind of issues going on, um, so it'd be interesting. It really would be interesting
Mm-hmm.
to see what happens. One other thing, not too surprising, the Titans signed Derrick Henry to a contract extension. That's not surprising. We knew
No,
that
not
was going to
shocking at
happen.
all. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, so let's move on. Let's move on to the NBA. Games are going to be starting here soon.
Very
You know,
soon. Yep.
the players have been in the bubble. One thing I
Yep.
will say, I'm kind of irritated with the players that are in the bubble because they're at Disney World flaunting around and then complaining what kind of food they have, but they're playing all these things or going on rides. It's like,
Right.
shut up. You're
Yeah.
basically getting a free 2 month vacation at Disney World.
Right. Yeah.
Shut
There's
up.
nothing for you to complain
Stop
about at all.
complaining.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go.
Right. It
You know,
was. This is
it was
voluntary, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of irritated me when I saw some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think a big thing that's happening right now, at least from just what I've kind of seen and read, is that Eric Bledsoe has tested positive for COVID and
Yep.
will not be with the Bucks in Orlando. Now, I don't know if that is for the entire thing or if it is just for like a couple of weeks, until I don't know if he's got the full blown thing or if it's just he's asymptomatic and he has to do
Right.
the 2 week quarantine or whatever it is. So, but in my opinion, that could be a big blow for the Bucks. Um,
Yeah. It
he's
would
one of
be,
those
I think.
guys
Yeah,
that takes attention away from Giannis, especially
right.
when he has games when he's on fire. You know,
Yeah,
so th- does it hurt the Bucks getting to the finals? I don't think so. But winning the finals, if he's out the entire time,
yeah.
yes, I
Yeah,
think that hurts them.
absolutely. Yeah. Because I think we both, we talked about this before, and our consensus was that the Lakers and the Bucks would make it to this, this finals when they have it in Orlando. Um, there are a couple of other teams that could present some problems for that to happen, being namely the Clippers or maybe the Celtics on either side. But I really don't think that ultimately that's what would happen. I mean, I honestly believe that those two teams would make it. But yeah, I mean, if the Bucks make it there and they don't have him, I agree with you. One player like that can make a huge difference in a series against a team with the talent that the Lakers have. So you need all hands on deck, especially when you have a LeBron James that walks in. I know the Lakers obviously have more stars than that, but I pin my focus on him because the guy willed Cleveland to some finals and
Right.
championships. He's basically the guy that everybody has to account for, everybody has to talk about. And if you make it to a finals, you have to have you have to be at 100% capacity. I think if you're facing a team that has him on it. So if they don't have
Oh,
that, I agree with you. I think it's
exactly.
going to be a problem. Yeah.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. Other than that, it's been pretty just basic stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Going
And
on.
there's
It's
plenty,
been
and
a
I mean,
lot.
I'll say this, Coach, I'll say this. There's been plenty of other things about not wearing a mask, who
Yeah.
has COVID
Yeah.
or worries about COVID. And I don't really want to get into all that because we've
Neither do
talked about the
I.
COVID stuff enough. So I'm thinking, let's just talk about the sport aspect of it. We really kind of went over the matchups and things before with the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued personally, though. Like, I kind of feel like it's the lull before the real big buzz with the NBA. When this
Yeah.
starts going, I really feel like it's going to generate a lot of interest. A lot.
Oh, exactly.
More
I
so
think
than typical.
when the games start going, you're gonna see a lot of stuff start coming out finally.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and we can finally hopefully stop talking about COVID and
Hmm.
all the protests and riots and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because when we'll touch base on that when we talk about MLB, because I gave you a little rant through text earlier this week, and I'm going to give it here
Yeah.
online. Um, but basically, I'm not talking about that stuff anymore on the show. I'm just
Yeah.
tired of it, and
Right.
we aren't going to waste our time talking about non-sports issues unless they're really like earth shattering. We'll talk
Yeah. I
about
mean,
them.
there are things that affect sports, and obviously, individual players may get
Right,
COVID, and that may be something we touch on. But yeah, and there's plenty of other podcasts that cover those things in depth. Probably on a weekly basis or even a
right.
daily basis, depending on what's out there. So,
Well, and that's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
They're saying there's players talking about the different political statement about wearing a mask, not wearing a
right,
mask. I'm
right.
not getting into that stuff.
No,
I'm just
no,
not.
yep,
I'm not
yep.
wasting our time on this show talking about that stuff because I think it's insignificant. We all have our opinions on masks. Let's leave it there. Move forward.
I will
Enough
say that I
said.
did see an article about Giannis in getting another MVP. Um, and I saw that the article itself. It was one of the articles on ESPN, and they were talking about that they think he deserves another MVP. And I don't, I mean, there's a couple of games here in the regular season that they're going to play. I don't know if that's really
Hmm.
going to affect the outcome much. I don't think they're going to do individual awards in Orlando. I don't remember if that was the case, or if it was going to include the play in Orlando. I think it was going to exclude that. So maybe that won't even matter if I remember correctly. So I think it's just going to go off of whatever the season was. Um,
Right.
so me personally, yeah, I mean, I would advocate for that, and I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit biased because he does play for our state's team, but I don't think. I mean, you could make a case for somebody else, but I don't know. Giannis seems to me to be the guy who would be the MVP for the NBA.
Oh yeah, and that really will have an impact on whether he stays in Milwaukee or not.
Uh huh.
There's that, and then they're talking about they have to you know update the CBA, and with everything going on with the stoppage and everything, they're saying that this could impact max contracts, which could impact what Giannis does. But I think if even if the Bucks would get to the finals and lose, I think
Right.
he will stay because then he knows they can win it in
Right.
Milwaukee.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
if they wouldn't make it to the finals, I think he would think about leaving
Sure.
because winning is so important to him. It's not to him. It's not about the money. At least from what I read and see.
Yeah. From what you
I
see.
don't
Yeah.
know
Right.
Giannis,
Right.
but he just doesn't seem like the guy that money is the driving factor. He's
Yeah.
already a multimillionaire, and he's going to be set for a big payday, whether it's in Milwaukee or if he goes somewhere else. He's
Right.
going to be set for life. His kids are going to be set for life. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting
Yeah.
to see how all this affects Giannis because I know there's teams out there that are already like, oh, we're going after Giannis hard. It's like
Yeah.
go for it. But
Sure.
he is going to look at your team, and if he doesn't think your team can win, he's not going to. So
Well, and that's what some of these teams in the NBA have to realize. It's been that dynamic in the NBA now for a while, and you go after the stars and you try to bring them in, but if you only bring one guy in, and you have a bunch of role players, I mean, some those guys are important. Don't get me wrong, but if a guy's looking to win a title, he's going to look at that and say, "I'm not coming there because I don't want to
right,
be the only guy." Unless you convince me that you have a plan to bring somebody else in maybe next year and I can sit out or wait it out, I should say, for a year. Um, and then you bring somebody else in or another two people in to give us a shot at it.
right, and I think
Otherwise, why do that?
and I think the Bucks are in a good position because I
They are.
believe their core is under contract. And
Right.
they're sitting actually really healthy in salary cap. So that team could be together for another 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
and you know, and they've proven that they can let a guy walk, and replace him,
Right.
and still be viable, So I think, Giannis looks at. I think Giannis has a great relationship with the owners and the management of the Bucks, and I think that plays a big part in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, though. Like you said, games will be starting up here soon, and then everything's going to change, and we'll actually have some fun stuff to talk about, hopefully.
Oh, I
So,
know matchups and games and everything. It's going to be awesome.
yeah,
I look forward
first
to it.
time
Yeah.
in a long time.
Right.
So, um, we're gonna skip over Major League Baseball because that one there's a couple of things there that I want to cover. I want to touch on
Sure.
golf. Tiger Woods struggles for over 76 day, but makes the cut.
Yep.
My question for you, Lone Wolf, is Tiger done, or can he win any more majors?
You know, he has been branded as being done before. And I know he's older and he's had a lot of surgeries and what have you, but until I see him really fade into obscurity, I'm not going to bet against him. I think he has the capacity to still come out there and potentially win one more. I mean, he seems to me um, as still having that potential because I got to be honest with you, I really doubted it, and every time that people would talk about it after he came back to golf, after the whole fiasco
Mm-hmm.
with his wife and everything, and what have you, and he took some time away. Uh, After that, and he came back, then people were, oh, he's not the same Tiger, and he's not doing this, he's not doing that. But he did come back, and he did win a bunch of tournaments, and he did prove himself again. So I still feel like he has the capacity or the capability of doing that. So I'm not going to put the nail in the coffin on him yet. I still think he can do it.
Yeah, and he's such a interesting. It's an interesting story
Mm-hmm.
because he'll come out and he'll like if say he struggles and whatever he finishes you know out of the top 20 whatever. Well, he could come out next week and just blow everybody away.
Yeah.
But then the next week he could have a back issue and then be out for 3 4 weeks. And he my concern with him is more durability. And because
Mm-hmm.
golf is a game, if you don't consistently play it, you're not going to be good.
Right.
It's just one of those things where you can't just pick a, I don't care who you are, Palmer, Nicholas, Tiger Woods. If
Right.
you in their prime, if they stopped playing golf for a year, picked up a golf club, and went out and said, they're not going to go and be like top of the line, at the
Yep.
top by doing it that way. So that's
Yeah.
my concern is that he's not able to consistently play, so he can't hone his game um, to win because he's no longer is the guy that outdrives everybody, things like that. He has to win by placing good shots. And how do you get good at that? You keep taking shots. You keep taking shots, and if you don't, you're gonna struggle. Um,
Right.
can he win more Masters tournaments? I think he can. I don't think you're ever going to see him as one of the tops in the PGA again. You
No,
know,
I think he could. I
but
think personally, he could win. He could win another one. I don't think it's going to be one of these where I think what everybody wanted to see when he came back was, can he be the old Tiger? Can he
right,
dominate the sport? But what people didn't realize, and they talked about it ad nauseum to the point you just don't even want to listen to it anymore. Um, was you thought, oh, is he going to come back to this same form? Well, he wasn't going to, because the game evolved, but it evolved because of him. I mean, that's why people talk about him so much, because he was such a transformational figure in golf. And yes, he was a phenom, but the guy had physical and mental discipline that I think a lot of other golfers didn't have. Mental discipline, I mean, I'm sure you could go back to some of the greats and say they had it, but maybe not the physical discipline that Tiger brought to the game that guys picked up on and have ran with since then. Um, so then yeah, like you said, I mean, over time, he's had to he's had to use a lot of other skills that when he maybe first came out, he was able to go over the top of other people because he had certain advantages that really don't exist, when he came back or even now. And he's had a lot of abuse and injuries on his body as a result of playing for so long. Um, and so I look at it and I say, I was kind of tired of hearing about it, but when he started kind of winning some tournaments again, I was like, it is good for golf. You want to see the guy do well, and it would be cool just from a fan perspective to see him win another. And I'm not going to bet against the guy. I still think he can, but yeah, I think the window is pretty short as far as that's concerned.
yeah, and he always tees up for the Masters. If he's going to win it, it's probably going to be either the Masters or the U.S. Open.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two tournaments he always eyes right. Recently, since he hasn't been as dominant as he has been. So it'll
Right.
be it'll be fun to watch and see if he could win a few more Masters and get up there and get the all-time record. I don't know if he can do that, but
Yeah.
you just never know. If he gets hot, he could. It's just you just never know with Tiger. So,
Right.
all right, moving on to Major League Baseball, and there's a lot of stuff going on here, but I'm gonna start with this. Enough is enough with wanting teams to change their names. I'm looking right here. There's people are saying, oh,
Yeah.
the Cleveland Indians used to be called the Cleveland Spiders. They should bring that back. Fine, whatever. That's their choice. I can see how
Sure.
Cleveland Indians can be construed as racist. I get it.
Right. Or offensive or
Understand it.
whatever. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I understand it. Do I agree with it? Not going into that because I said I wasn't going to. But
Right.
I'm done listening to these people. They have come out and now are demanding the Texas Rangers change their name.
Right. Yep. I saw
I'm
that.
I'm done with this stuff. Lone Wolf. I am done. I am no longer I don't care anymore. I don't care if a name is offensive to you anymore. I'm done. You've gone too far now in my eyes.
Well, and
I'm just done.
I don't understand that. I mean, I really honestly don't understand that. I don't get it. What about that is offensive? I guess I don't get it. And maybe I'm missing something, but
To me, I don't know, and I like I said, I no longer you've I can see the Redskins, I can see the
right.
Indians, I can see
Yep.
those, I understand that. How is the Texas Rangers offensive to anybody?
Yeah.
You know, uh, you know, I said this last week. I applaud the Atlanta Braves for saying we're not changing our name. This is our history. We're not changing our name. The Chicago Blackhawks, we're not changing our name.
Mhm.
Now they're gonna have to probably deal with some repercussions financially, and in the the media and some backlash, but they'll survive. Those teams will survive. They always do. They have enough fans that aren't to to compensate for anybody that says, "Well, I'm not going to be a fan of yours because you're not changing your name." Um, but now with this, I'm done. I'm done. Um, you know, this is. I said that. I believe I said this last week. You get
Yeah.
to a point where you start losing people's support. I'm one
Right.
of those. After that,
Right.
I was done. I'm like, nope, don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it. And nobody better bring an argument to me why a team should change their name because I'm done.
Right.
I'm
And
done.
honestly, I mean, you look at
Where
it.
does it?
Where does it end? No, I agree. And Blackhawks
Right,
might be more offensive to someone than Rangers. Now, I understand that the
right,
history of the Rangers, as far as Texas and the name, the meaning is, for the law enforcement agency in Texas, for the Rangers that were there.
right,
And a lot of people would look back at some of their history and say there were some Rangers who were racists and who were basically, no better than just mobs going around and lynching people and things of that nature. And yeah, I understand that there's some potential contention there, but like you said, where does the line end? I really don't think that the Rangers, it just doesn't seem to embody that really, because it's not like every single Ranger walked around and did that. That
well, right,
that may be in the past for some, but it's not like every single Texas Ranger was a bad person that did these things. So, when you look at it, like Redskins, you're saying this person is red skinned. It's offensive to
right,
someone because of how you're maybe saying it's a slur. But I mean, it's not like they're calling themselves, the Nazis or something. I don't
right.
know. I mean, I
Well,
guess it just doesn't evoke the same feeling to me when you look at it. And yeah, where does it end? Because if you say, okay, they have to change their name, who's the next team? What's the next one
right.
you go to that you say, well, And you could even stay in the same state. You mentioned it a couple of shows ago. What, the Dallas Cowboys got to change their name because
Right.
cowboy could be offensive to someone?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
You,
yeah,
you know, you look at you're opening up a Pandora's box. You could say a group could say we're you know it's taking a way off point, but
yeah,
you could say we're afraid of snakes, so Arizona Diamondbacks need to change your name. That offends
yeah.
us. That
Right. Yeah.
scares us.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what? We
Yeah.
talked about it a few shows ago. Back when we were early in college, PETA wanted that we're trying to force the Packers to change their name because their name came from Acme Packing, which is a meat packing company. I mean,
Right.
how absurd can you get?
Right.
That's why I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
This is the last show I am talking about this. Unless the Redskins actually change the name, we'll talk about it. We'll break
Sure.
that down. But I'm not mentioning this stuff anymore. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are getting to that point where now they're going to start tuning this stuff out
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're
because
getting fed up with it. Yeah.
it's going too far.
Right.
It's going too
Right.
far.
And
So
I don't want anyone that listens to this show to take it and say, oh, these guys are jerks or whatever the case may be. And obviously everybody can think whatever they want when listening to the show, but I would just say, you look at an issue and I think you have to say, okay, in your life, what's worth fighting for, what's worth going after, and what really is truly offensive to most people. I mean, you can almost say that anything could be offensive to anybody, and
right,
then oh, this is a cause, we need to change it. But really, it borders on ridiculous when you start going down that path and it goes too far. And that's where you kind of have to say, okay, there needs to be a movement to change things. I agree, but there also needs to be more pressing issues that are dealt with as opposed to let's just keep taking this to the next step and see what
right,
happens with it. Because I think at a certain point you just you're losing integrity on it. And
exactly,
yeah, I now go after what should be gone after and change what should be changed. So
exactly. So that was my rant on baseball. So, um,
right.
and now we can start looking at some actual baseball stuff because opening day is a week away.
It
Um,
is. Yep. And
so
and right now, I mean, you're looking at teams getting out there and essentially practicing against each other. It looks like there's a schedule right now online about teams playing against each other, just kind of a basically a spring training,
mhm,
preseason kind of thing that's going on until the games actually start here.
right, and so when you look at some of the stuff, you mentioned this, Pew as a free agent after testing positive for COVID. Um,
Yep.
so it'll be interesting to see if he's is signed by anybody. Um,
Right.
again, they say positive for a positive COVID test. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
There's a couple different levels of positive COVID tests out there. That's the problem with all this data. They could be
Yeah.
positive and have full blown symptoms. They could be asymptomatic, or they could be positive for antibodies, which means they had the virus previously.
Right.
So, saying positive test doesn't really give you any clue of what his status might be. Now, of course, if a team is interested in signing him, they're gonna know what it is. But as people just looking at you see it, and you're like, oh my god, but
Hmm.
you really don't. So, um, I see these, all these positive tests, and it's like, well, I get it,
Yeah,
but
and to your point, he's saying he's asymptomatic and feels fine. He's quarantining to see if he can get some negative tests, and we'll see what happens there. But um, I just I wanted to highlight it because he's a name people know, Yasiel Puig, and
yep.
um, I think it's going to be something as baseball ramps up their season that's going to be more prevalent in baseball than in the NBA. I mean, I think in the NBA you're going to see some of that because we've already talked about that. But in baseball, I mean, yes, they'll be farther away from each other most of the time when they're playing, but there's a lot more players and there's a lot more teams and a lot more cities that are involved, I guess, because it's every team in baseball as opposed to the NBA, which is a finite number of teams um, with less players involved, just overall. And less cities, obviously, they're only in the bubble. So,
Well, right, and you know, it's going to be interesting though. The one thing I think for Major League Baseball though, they're outside when they're playing. They're outside,
right, yes, true.
um,
Yeah,
so that per the data that is out there is supposed to decrease the chance of transmission of the virus.
yeah,
Um,
true, very
you know,
true. Yep,
the concern is with the bubble in the NBA is that you get a couple people that get it and they don't catch it right away, the whole
right.
bubble could have it. You know,
Yes, yeah, yep,
I don't think I think even if baseball sees more cases, they're at less of a risk of it being widespread.
sure,
Um,
sure.
I that's my concern with the NBA is that you get a couple people that get it and they don't detect it right away. That's not going to be good.
Right,
You're gonna see the whole thing infected, and then that whole
yeah,
bubble is gonna go from a bubble of playing basketball games to a quarantine bubble.
right,
Um,
right.
so, but we'll see what happens with that. Just looking at some headlines. Locally, the Brewers are starting Woodruff
Yep,
on
saw
opening
that.
day. Um, it really, to be honest, I think a shortened season actually helps the Brewers. Um,
Right,
I think not saying that they're going to surprise anybody or win the World Series or anything like that, but I think it helps them um, with being able to compete for a playoff spot because I think that they are still a younger team. Even with Braun, Yelich is in his prime.
yeah,
They have some really nice young talent. I just think they're still really young, and they don't have a ton of veteran depth. So I think that 60 game, if they can get off to a good start and only be playing 60 games, and you avoid a 5 6 game losing streak, they could be right there, at the end of this thing. Um, and I don't know. I know there's people that are really high on the Cubs and the Reds, and um, but you know, I thought
I mean,
everybody
I
said
look at
that.
the Brewers too. I have a similar feeling. It could, like last year they were on the cusp, right? They made a really strong push at the end of the year where they needed to win a bunch of games in order to even still be in contention, because they were almost they were almost on life support basically to make the postseason, and I mean they really made that push at the end of the year. So I think they have a capability of being in the mix. I don't know that they're a World Series team, but they're definitely a contender for a playoff spot. I think they have that capability, and I agree. I think the shortened season will help because yes, every baseball team goes through certain lulls during the season, but the Brewers had quite a significant one, last year, and I think it really kind of hurt. And then yes, they made a push at the end of the year, but this shortened season I think will help them in terms of being able to um, potentially make the postseason. I think they'll have a better shot as a result.
Right. Um, let's see. Anything else with baseball, Lone Wolf?
No, there wasn't really anything else I wanted to talk about there. I think once we get to the actual games and seeing where the things open pretty soon here, then we'll have a lot more to go over with baseball.
And the nice thing with baseball, and I'll be honest, with only being 60 games, there are going to be more people paying attention to baseball because there's only
That's
60
true.
games.
Right,
Because
right.
I'll tell you right now, if this was just regular opening day and we're playing 162 games, we would mention baseball, but we
Right.
would not be
Yeah.
focusing on baseball because
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
mean, we would talk
okay,
about it a little bit and we'd say, hey, it's opening day, enjoy yourselves, but there's 162 games to go. We'll see in a couple
right,
months. We'll talk about a few things
exactly.
here and there, but yeah. Yeah.
Um, what there is some NASCAR news off the track.
I did see
It
that. Yep.
well, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing.
Oh,
So
okay.
this affects our local football team. Danica Patrick and Aaron Rodgers are no more. So
Oh.
for all so so for all
Okay.
you so for all you ladies out there that think Aaron Rodgers is a catch, he is now available. And for all the guys that think Dana Patrick is a catch, she is available. So they are no
I
longer
didn't
in a
realize you were
relationship.
going that route. Okay.
What did you see, Lone Wolf, with
Well, I mean,
NASCAR?
there were some things about Bubba Wallace, and there were some things about people testing positive for the virus, and I thought you might be going down either one of those roads. But
I said I'm not talking about
yeah,
that
no, you're
stuff
not talking about that
anymore.
anymore. Important social issues here. Aaron Rodgers is a free man.
That's
He's a
right.
bachelor. Ladies,
That's
line up
right.
for him. He's out there.
Exactly. I will go. We will mention this. They had the All Star race at Bristol, and they had about 20,000 fans attend, which I think is actually pretty darn good.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd
and
say
if you
yeah.
and if you look at the picture, I didn't look at it too closely. Um, they had a couple of pictures in here. Um, it's really hard to see, if they have masks on or whatnot, but
Sure.
they're fairly, they're social for the majority of social distance. I mean, when you see the groups, they're probably families,
Right.
which per all the guidelines, that's fine.
Right.
Um, so again, this is what I think you're gonna see a lot of, at least this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe even part of next year. It all really depends on where everything's at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's good to see fans back at sporting events. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Um,
Sure.
it just shows, return to normalcy, and like
A
we
little
talked
bit
about,
anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
giving people the choice.
Mm-hmm.
You
I,
know,
I think I think as
um,
long as we understand that we have to adapt to the way things are now. I think the hardest thing for some people is they're just and I'm not I'm just gonna say it. I mean I don't care. This is our show. We can say we can say our opinions.
right, exactly,
Is people are not willing to change at all from what they were doing before, and I'm sorry, but that just doesn't work.
right,
So, if it comes down to it and you go to a sporting event and they say you have to wear a mask, you can be with the group that you came in with, and you have to stay away from everybody else that's in your section. Okay, well, those are the rules when you go there. And they reserve the right to boot
right,
you out if you don't follow those rules, just like you would throw somebody out if they were being unruly at a game normally. So, for all these people
right.
who are out there who are like, I'm not going to do that because I don't have to. Sorry, this is private property. You're there, and they have the right to boot you out if you're not following the rules. So I guess I would just say, I'm glad that fans are able to go back, but if you do something like that, don't be that person. Go back and enjoy yourself, and be safe about it, and follow the rules.
Well, right, and to that point, you know, I pretty much everybody knows I am one of those people, I don't really know what to make of everything going on. I'll say this: if it's my choice to wear a mask, I probably won't wear it. But if I go somewhere and they say you have to wear a mask, I'll wear the darn thing. It's their
Sure.
rule. I'll wear it. I'm not gonna sit there and complain about. I might complain about it underneath my breath, but I'm gonna wear it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if it's my choice, I'm not. And that's like you were saying. If somebody says, "Hey, yeah, you can go to this, but we're mandating masks," well, then you
Yeah.
have to wear a mask. When I go to
Right.
the schools and open up our weight room for our athletes, our school district says staff has to wear masks when in the building and interacting with students. I
Yeah.
have to wear a mask. Do I like it?
Right.
No, I don't. Do the kids think it's stupid? Yes.
Right.
I still
But you got to
wear it.
do it. Yep. You
Um,
got to do it.
right,
Yeah.
you got to do it. Sometimes you got to do it. Doesn't matter what your personal opinion is on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sometimes you got to do it if you want to be able to have some level of normalcy in our world. You have to do this.
Yeah.
And I know some people I've talked to are afraid that even when this is all done, they're gonna be like, "Oh, look how much healthier that it is. We might as well, but just wear." That's not gonna happen. When
No,
this is
I think
no
that's
longer,
irrational. Yeah, I don't think that's going
yeah.
to happen either.
And I told him, I'm like, "You're just talking out your rear end on this," because I'll tell you right
Yeah.
now, if when this is done
Yeah.
and people say, "Oh, you have to still wear a mask come in," I won't go to your store anymore. I won't go to your restaurant anymore because there's no need
Right.
to wear the mask anymore.
Yeah. There
If you
if
want, if
there
you,
is no need, then I don't think you can really do that or get away with that anymore at your business, and people
well,
won't follow
they
that unless there's
technically
no
can because it's
health
their
need.
business alone.
Oh well, sure,
You
but
know,
people won't
eh,
go there. I mean, they
right?
just
People
will
won't
avoid
go.
your business. Then that's a business decision, and it's a poor one at that point if it's
Right,
not required from a
a,
virus standpoint. So yeah,
a very poor one, I would say.
right, right, yeah,
say.
yeah.
Um. So, all right. Anything else you can think sports wise?
Well, the
Long wolf.
one
I
other
mean,
thing I wanted to mention, because we talked about college football before, was that along the lines of the Big Ten canceling their non-conference games, the Pac-12 did the same thing. Um, and so I figured that some other conferences would follow suit after we talked about it. I mentioned that the last time, and they have. I want to see if some of the other conferences, some of the other big conferences, do that. I think they're getting some pressure to do that, like the Big 12, the SEC, what have you. Um, so I just wanted to mention that because I know we talked about it before, and I think you're going to see other conferences follow suit now that two of the big power conferences have done that.
yeah, and I think that is. I think almost every college is doing that. I know there's been a push to flip flop seasons and play fall sports in the spring. Because we're doing that, locally here within the state. There's talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. At the college level, I think you could get away with it. It would not work at the high school level.
Right.
Um, Sometimes it's like, well, we'll just move the spring sports to summer. Well, here's the thing, and I talked to about a dozen of our seniors this week when that you know came up, and I said, if that happens, would you come back and play a spring sport in the summer? And they're like, no.
Right.
So you're taking an opportunity away if for seniors to play in their spring sports. Um, I don't
Right.
think that's going to happen. The WIA said they are not in favor of it. But I will say this along those lines of canceling these non-conference games. I think that is going to happen in every college conference.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do not think you'll see any non-conference games. It's even happening at the high school level.
Right.
Wanakee here in the state of Wisconsin has canceled their first 2 weeks of non-conference play and actually has
Sure.
delayed the start of their football practice 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, we're still going ahead, thank God.
Right. Right.
And I even think if the state just says, hey, we're just play your conference games, I think we would still practice at normal time. I mean, it's a couple extra weeks to get the kids back in shape after we
Sure.
did the math. They were out of school for 4 months. Unless you had access to a private weightlifting equipment, you didn't work out. So and you can definitely tell some of our kids need a lot of work.
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah. There are people
so
who, when they were sequestered, were taking it upon themselves to work out, like myself. But I know that a lot of people didn't, and it'd be easy to forget about it and just try to go through a daily routine of doing other things. So, yeah, I'm sure you got a lot of kids that are coming in there that are not in football shape or even close to it.
and yeah, I'm just scrolling through the college headlines here. Smaller conference, but it's a big decision. The Colonial Athletic Conference, the CAA, has canceled its football season.
Hmm.
So you know, and I've taken, I guess, some heat, for my opinions on whether we should open schools and be playing sports for some people that are against it.
Yeah.
Um, and they say, "Oh, look at the risks to the teachers and the students," and then blah blah blah. I said, "Have we thought about the mental health of these students not being able to do these things, not
Hmm.
being able to go into a building and be around friends?" And they can't respond to me, and I say, "This is coming from somebody that is a teacher."
Right.
I'm willing to take the risk because I feel it's important for our students to be around their peers and be able to do things and not just sit at home on a phone, on a video game console, doing nothing.
Yeah.
And you can already tell, um, that even the kids, some kids that have been lifting now that we're going into our third week here on Monday, have said they feel so much better just being able to come in
Sure.
and do something. And I think that's what we're missing when we're talking about that.
Yeah.
And everybody talks about, you got sacrifices, blah blah blah. But you also sometimes have to be willing to take the risk in order to
Sure.
benefit another group of people. And you know, we have a plan in place to open our schools, and there's some things where you look at it, you're like, oh boy, that's going to be interesting. But I think everybody will adapt to it. And so I think that's what we have to look at. When these conferences and everything, we're canceling this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this. What is the mental impact they're having on their students?
Hmm.
Yes, they're college students, they're technically adults. They're still immature adults. They don't know
Yeah.
how to always handle adversity.
Right.
So by canceling these things on these kids, um, what are you doing to them? I'll tell you right now, if you're a football player at one of those schools in that conference, are you staying there?
Well, but I think a lot of teams are going to do that, and a lot of conferences are going to do that. So I don't know if it matters for you to jump to another conference. If
I
a lot
don't.
of the other conferences do
I'm going
that.
to disagree, Lone Wolf. I don't think a lot of conferences are canceling their entire football season.
Oh, no, no, no. Oh, I thought you meant like canceling their non-conference games. Oh,
No, I'm
okay.
talking about
Yeah. Oh.
canceling their whole season.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
player, no, no. And I agree with you, coach. If you cancel the entire season, would you stay there or would you go somewhere that at least is going to play some games?
right,
As a player, yeah, I would go somewhere. I mean, it's kind of like, and these guys didn't have a choice. But when the NCAA tournament was canceled in March,
right.
they're stuck. I mean, they're done and they don't have a chance to do anything about it. Their eligibility is finished. And the NCAA, in its infinite wisdom, said, "Too bad, so sad" to those people. We're not going to give you any other eligibility. Now they may have changed their mind, but I'm guessing they didn't since then. And so, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I know. I thought you meant like if you were having a shortened season, you jump ship and go somewhere else. And no, I,
Oh no, no, no. I'm
yeah,
talking
okay,
about if they
yeah,
cancel the whole
yeah.
season.
Yeah, so if you're
So,
in the CAA and you're playing in one of those schools there, and you're like, oh well, now I can't even play. Yeah, I would think about going somewhere else potentially to still be able to at least play some games.
and I'll tell you right now, the NCAA would more than likely waive any waiting period to play because of the current situation.
Sure.
So,
I would just say, for me, looking at it when you were just talking about going back and the mental health aspect, I know it definitely has an impact on people. I think my feeling on it is I tend to be more cautious about getting back together in large groups and things of that nature. But what I will say is that there's definitely a mental health aspect that people are mentally affected by isolation because human beings just naturally, for the most part, tend to be social and want to see other people. And we've found ways to adapt to how things are going. So what I would say is we don't want to rush back and do what we were doing before, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier about the whole wearing masks if you go to a football game and all that kind of stuff. If they're requiring it, so I would just that would be my caution. Would be you can go back, you can do things, but it's adapted to the new circumstances. Um, and try it. It's not going to be without risk. I mean, that's exactly what you said. There's some risk involved. So if people start getting it or things start happening, then maybe you have to change the way you're doing things if there's an outbreak or something like that. But yeah, of course it's not without risk, but you'll take that chance with the protocols in place.
right. So the last thing I want to mention here in college sports before we get to our
Our
lists
rankings, yep,
is St. Thomas University, Division III
yep,
football powerhouse, jumping up to Division 1.
yeah,
It looks like they will be in. They're gonna be in a couple different conferences for different sports initially. Their football conference is going to be Denver, Kansas City, North Dakota State, Omaha, Oral Roberts, South Dakota State, Western Illinois. I can tell you right now, they'll be lucky to be 500.
oh yeah,
Um, they are, um, they're a very good, very solid Division III football program. Won't put that past them. But going from Division 1 to or Division 3 to Division 1
right.
is uncanny. It's never. I don't think it's ever happened.
I don't think it's ever happened either. I think it's completely unprecedented. Yeah,
If anything, go to NAIA, or Division 2. Um, it just. I think this kind of shows a. I don't know, and I said it to you, guys. Some arrogance thinking you are that good,
right,
that much better. Um, well, you're gonna play North Dakota State. Get ready.
right.
You're gonna see better.
Yeah, yeah. There's good teams in that conference.
you,
You
you know,
know,
um, hey, I'm telling you right now, the people that North Dakota State recruit, some of them come from the area you recruit.
right.
They already have a foothold in those
Exactly.
areas.
Yeah,
People aren't just
yeah,
gonna say like, "Oh, okay, now I'll go St. Thomas." Again, you're still a private school.
right. You cost a lot of
You're
money.
it costs a lot of
Last time I
money.
checked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I think it's arrogant, and I honestly think that they're going to be not even 500. They're going to get their butts handed to them, and they're going to get pummeled. I mean, I think people don't realize the disparity between D3 and D1. If well, I shouldn't say that. People do realize it. I don't think they are realizing the disparity between D3 and D1. Yeah, those teams are not the cream of the crop. It's not like they joined the SEC, but you're
Right.
not talking about a conference that has all slouches in it. I mean, they have
Well,
good teams, like you just said.
Lone Wolf,
So
North Dakota State. This is the FCS Division One powerhouse.
yeah,
They're one of
yeah,
the best FCS programs in the nation.
I know that there's some good football players that have come from that
You know,
particular program.
I mean,
Just a
South
couple. I
Dakota,
mean, there's a few people that play in the NFL that can call
right?
that conference home. Yeah,
And their current quarterback is considered to be one of the top quarterback prospects coming out this coming year.
right, right.
So, good luck, St. Thomas, with that.
Yeah,
You will not. Here's where they're going to struggle. I think
yeah,
you're a you're gonna be recruiting the same place as a bunch of these other schools. You have
right,
North Dakota, South Dakota State, all
right.
right in your backyard. The
Yep,
second thing is if you are on somebody's radar, if it's between St. Thomas and North Dakota State, all North Dakota State coach has to say for the next 4 years is tell a kid they even if they win the conference, they beat us win the conference, they don't get to go to the postseason. The second place team does. They're
yeah.
ineligible for the postseason play until the 25-26 season. Why
Yeah,
would you go play for them then?
right, right, right. Exactly.
So,
Because every kid
and
wants. I
then
mean, that's what you want. You want to go to the postseason, whatever
right,
that entails. Yeah,
and so they have a 4 year like probationary period, and if they don't meet certain criteria, they're bumped back down to Division Three.
yeah, yeah,
Good luck, St. Thomas.
yeah. I
If
don't think it's
anybody
going to work
from
out
St.
for them.
Thomas area, St. Thomas alum or fans hear this, sorry. I think this is a big mistake for your school, to be honest. So,
Right. I
all
agree.
right, it is time, Lone Wolf. It is
Yes, it
time. The
is.
time of the week where we give our top five of a topic. We've done our top five favorite sports movies, our top five favorite sports characters, and this week it is our top five favorite sports movie teams.
Right.
Okay, um, and I told you this,
Yep.
and you guessed the team on my list, but it's not the one. That's not
The
shocking
surprise one. Yep.
because
Yep.
that movie was on my top five.
It was, yeah, and then I figured it wouldn't be. That wasn't going to be a surprise. I figured they would
So,
be on there, but it wasn't a surprise.
but
Yeah.
if you can get this one, you will get free bottle service on me next time we're in Vegas.
I wish
I
I wish I could. I just don't know. And maybe I'll get lucky and it'll be one of the ones on my list. But I'm probably it
I
probably
doubt
won't.
it. I
It
doubt
probably
it.
won't be.
So I'm gonna have you start because I believe I started out last week. So
Yeah. Yep.
you start out with your number five sports movie team.
And I had a little bit of a hard time because I had about 6 or 7 teams, and I had to cut it down a little bit and decide between them. Who's better, blah blah blah. So one of the things I did, and we've talked about this, is I didn't use a team, good or bad, that's a real team. So,
Yep, either did I.
everybody who's a fan of Major League, the Cleveland Indians, sorry, and there's other teams that are real teams that were in sports. Um, I'd say one of the biggest ones would probably be Team USA from the movie Miracle. I
Yep,
did not use them because they're a real team.
same thing.
So, yeah, so
Same
just
same
so
same
everybody
thing here.
knows that.
All
Yep,
my teams are fictional teams.
yep. So, with that being said, my number five is the Mean Machine from The Longest Yard, but the remake of The Longest Yard, because to me that one was more talented than the original Mean Machine um, in the 70s, because you got guys like Michael Irvin on this team. Now, he's a real football player, but it's a fictional
It's a
team.
fictional team. It's a fictional team.
Right.
Yeah,
So I put them at my number 5 because they were talented. They had some really tough, mean guys, and once they
well,
put it all together,
when you can smoke and make a tackle and then burn the guy's leg, come on,
right, right,
break a guy's
exactly.
neck, pull a cheeseburger out of your jock strap and put it on somebody's mouth
Yep.
during the game.
During the game. Yep.
That's
These guys
talent.
had talent.
So I will tell you this: they are on my list too, but they're higher
Okay.
than number 5.
Okay. All right. I debated with them for a little bit, but I had them on my list. So,
And see, I had a hard time because every time I thought of a team, I'm like, no, no. And
right.
then there's a lot of like, oh no, they're a real team. So I can't. So, and the
Yeah.
reason this one's number 5 because it was kind of a reach. I'm like, I had 4 I knew that I wanted on the list. And the
Okay.
fifth one, I couldn't think of one. I was like, oh, you know what? I would sit down and watch this movie and enjoy it. A bunch of misfits. It's a bunch
Sure.
of misfits, but they were able to overcome the odds and make the playoffs. They had some smoking hot cheerleaders that were strippers, and I'm talking the Washington Sentinels from the replacements.
Oh boy, you went that route. Oh
I did.
man.
I did.
Oh man. The
How,
Shane Falco, Keanu
Shane
Reeves.
Falco.
Oh
How
man.
can't you like the play
Oh,
where they just drop kick everybody?
oh man. They were not on my list, but you make some valid points. They're not on my list.
Like I said, that's why they're number 5 because I'm
Sure,
like,
sure.
this is a real stretch. But there's no other like teams I can think of that I'd be like, I want to sit and watch
I
that
mean,
movie.
Average Joe's Gym or something. I mean, you could have thrown somebody on there
But
that
this is number 5.
Sure, I
This is
get it.
I
I
got
get it. I get it.
4
Yep. Yep.
more. I
Yep.
have
I get
4
it.
more. Okay, you are up, Lone
All
Wolf.
right.
Number
My number
4.
4 is a classic movie. I think I ended up going a little bit more with one sport in this particular time because sometimes it seemed like I was favoring one over the other, but in this case, everybody will recognize them. Um, and it's the team that could. In Indiana doesn't do this anymore, but they used to. Any team, no division for basketball. You go out there, play against the biggest high school or the smallest high school. It doesn't matter. And I'm talking about, of course, the Hickory High Huskers from the movie Hoosiers.
Yeah,
So they were my number 4. I think not the most talented group out there, but for that one magical season led by Coach Gene Hackman, they came out and they won the title when it seemed like they were going against impossible odds. So
yeah, and I was considering them, but then I was like, it's based off of another school that did it. So I was like,
right.
no, I'm gonna disqualify them because it's based on a real team, a real school. So
Oh, I gotcha.
I
Okay,
didn't put them
okay,
on there.
yep. I did because this was the
Otherwise,
fictional in terms of the name and
right,
and that. Yeah. So yep,
right.
I get you.
So here is my surprise.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna give you some hints, but since unless you have a guess,
I don't. Right. No,
all
I
right,
don't
as I
right
say,
now. No.
if I start giving you hints, the bottle service is off the table because it's
Yeah.
not fair then.
Right.
So
No, it's not. Yep.
this team is not in a sports movie. Okay, it's not in a sports movie.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Is it the Gotham Rogues
no,
from Batman? Okay. All right.
no,
I
no.
threw it out there because you got a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers. You
Yes,
got your favorite coach
yep,
and Bill Cowher sitting on the
nope,
sideline. So I thought
nope,
maybe. Okay.
not them. Um, it is I would say a B movie, but a cult classic.
Okay.
Okay, it's
Are you going Milwaukee Beers from basketball?
No, no,
Okay, all
nope.
right, all right.
It is a space movie. So the team was on Earth, but most of the movie is done in space.
Oh, so are you talking like Toon Squad from Space Jam or something? Or
Nope, nope.
okay, all right. I'm throwing things out there, man.
I'm trying to give you hints to see if you can get it.
Yeah.
They it is kind of a football team, but it's called jump ball. It's played indoors. Has a female quarterback.
Oh, I got nothing. I'm blanking on this
All right.
one, man. Yeah,
So
you got to tell me.
my number 4 team
Okay.
is the Buenos Aires Tigers from I can't think of the Space Troopers
Oh, you mean Starship Troopers?
or Starship Troopers. Yes.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Okay. Yep. I should.
Flip,
When you
flip,
said that, I should have
flipping
gotten it. Yep.
flipping in the air, catching the ball.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
uh,
I should
that
have
is my
gotten
number
that one
14.
because I've read the book, which is nothing like the movie, but I've seen the
Right.
movie. I saw it in the theater a long time ago. Yes, you are right. It is not a sports movie, but it definitely has a prominent sports thing at the very beginning of the movie. So
And one of the
yes,
reasons I put it on here, not that, again, it's not a flashy sports movie. It
right.
was I wanted one of my teams to be obscure,
Yeah.
like really obscure.
Yep.
And when I was looking at that, them or the Sentinels from the Replacements, I was
Right.
like, I would actually watch Starship Troopers over the Replacements. So they got the number 4.
They got the number
They
four
got the number
because of
4.
that. Oh
Yeah,
boy. You make a valid point. You would sit down and watch that movie. That's
yeah.
there you
I
go.
watched it the
Yeah.
other night.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix right now. I watched it
There
the
you
other
go.
night. So
Here we go to my number 3. And I don't know if you'll be surprised by these or not. I mean, I think you'll know them, the next 3 that I've got. But well, this one should be really no surprise to you because it's on your list as well. And that is the ESU Wolves of the movie The Program. That's my number 3. Um, Tormented by a lot of challenges in terms of all the problems they got going on, but this team has talent up the wazoo. And if it was an actual football team, they'd probably smoke a lot of teams out there right now. That's for sure.
well, I'm gonna
So
say this though. Yes, they had a
yeah.
lot of talent. If they're a real football team, they would be good. But they would most likely, most of them would be suspended for NCAA
Well,
violations.
yes, okay, yeah, there's that, yeah. I was assuming that they would actually be able to play as a team.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Um. Yes, they are on my list. They are not my number 3. My number
Oh
3
wow.
is
Okay.
a team that you referenced earlier. That is the Mean Machine
Ah, yeah.
from The Longest Yard, the remake, not the
Right.
original.
Right.
Again, we've already talked about it. I mean, how can't you like Adam Sandler snapping the ball and pelting the ref in each of his testicles
Right.
to prove a point?
Exactly.
How can you get tired of watching that?
Yeah, I honestly I've seen the original movie and I
So have
liked
I.
it, but I loved the remake more. And maybe it just speaks to me because it's a different generation. Um, but yeah, it's great. I love that movie. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
great movie. So
yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to my number 2. So my next 2, there were a couple that were on my list that, like I said, I had to trim down. I think that talent wise, you'd be hard pressed to say that either one of these teams was not good. I mean, exceptional is probably a better way of putting it. So just because of the talent they had. So my number two is the Western University Dolphins from the movie Blue Chips.
Okay, yes, yes.
Yes,
That
yes.
you talk about a talented team. Holy
Oh
cow!
yeah.
Yes, great,
You got
great
you got
movie.
Shaq.
Well, how can't you love Nick Nolte as a coach?
Oh right, yeah.
I mean, come
I
on.
mean, he's like made to be a coach.
Right,
He's
exactly.
mean. He's irascible. He's always in your face. You know, he's just a coach.
Right. Yes, that's
Um,
a good one.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, they had, and I think Penny Hardaway's in
Yep.
that one as well too. I mean, so this team is like, basically a college version of what the Orlando Magic were at one point.
Right, right,
So
right.
it's just kind of what it felt like, and I was like, okay, it's got to be that. And again, this is a little different than the criteria used when we're talking about individual athletes.
Yep.
But as a team, it's a fictional team,
Right.
but it has real talent on it. So that's my number two. As a college basketball player, there are many who are dominant, but when Shaq was in college, the guy was unbelievable. So I look at that and I'm like, okay, that translated to me in the movie, and yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's a good one. So
So and something came to me as we're watching, as we're going over that,
yeah,
and I'm going to go through my list, but I just thought of another team that trumps all my entire list. But we'll go over that at the end.
okay, all right,
So
all
I'm
right.
going to go through my list. Okay.
So you're
So
number
my
two.
number two is the ECU Wolves from the program.
Sure. Yep.
I just love the movie. They have a quarterback, they have a running back, they have a stud defensive lineman. They have I love the good old boy offensive lineman, and then how can't you like their middle linebacker that threatens to rip your guts out? Uh,
Right.
I can't say the whole quote because it's inappropriate.
Obviously,
And
yes. Yeah.
there's some vulgar language in there, um, and probably might get us banned from podcasting. So
I would say that's probably a fair thing. Yes. Yep.
so I'll avoid that, but they are my number two.
Got it. Yeah. So that leads us down to the number one team.
Yes.
And I went over a couple different teams here. There's some possibilities.
Hmm.
But I think that my number one, you'd be hard pressed to match them up against anybody else and say that they weren't uber talented. And the movie itself is a more serious movie. It's a good one, and it's got a lot of great actors in it and a lot of real basketball players in it as well. So I've kind of given that away, but I did stay away from individual athletes who were players. But in this case, this is a fictional team. It is the Lincoln Rail Splitters from the movie He Got Game.
And I'm going to be honest, I never have watched that movie, so
Okay.
I am going totally off of what you're saying.
Okay. It's one of those, to me, it's like a lot of the movies I thought of were fun movies that I would watch kind of casually, or like a Dodgeball or Longest Yard, that kind of stuff. But when I thought about this, I thought, well, you've got Ray Allen, and you've got Travis Best, Walter McCarty, and you've got guys who all played in the NBA, who are involved or playing on this team. And I look at that and I'm like, okay, this team is just loaded with talent. As a basketball squad, you'd be hard pressed to you'd be hard pressed to take them down. So I look at that and I think, yeah, this is one of the best. And it's got Denzel Washington in the movie, so you really can't go wrong, in my opinion.
That's true.
So
That's true.
yeah,
Okay, so my number one, and you could, if you look at our list, you can kind of see
yeah,
you went a little bit different than I did,
right, yep,
but that's okay. That's why we do these lists.
yeah, it's
They're
fun,
fun. They're fun.
right,
My number one team, and this movie was on my list last week, and
okay,
might have been on my list both weeks. Not very talented. Let's just say they're downright awful. Okay,
okay.
they're downright awful until a crotchety old guy comes in a wheelchair and starts throwing wrenches at them.
Oh, there it is.
My number one team is the Average Joes
Average Joe's
from
Gym.
Dodgeball.
Nice.
You gotta
it's
love it. You
it's
gotta
hard to
love it.
argue. Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
so so that was my number one
Yeah.
team. But now, while we're sitting here thinking, and it never came to my mind because I thought this team was a just a TV show team. But then I
Okay.
remembered they did make a movie. It was straight to Netflix, so it wasn't like in the movie theaters.
Okay.
But this team is
Trumps all your other
unbelievable.
teams.
Trumps all
Okay.
my other teams. Um, very, very upset when they canceled the show.
Okay.
Um, you have, I believe they won a national championship. So
Okay.
there's kind of a debate whether this is a movie team, and so, but that's why I want to throw this out there
Okay.
because they did do a movie about one of the players that was on the TV show, but he was
I
back
gotcha.
on campus with them, and that is Blue Mountain State.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
So that's why I said that if we would consider them a movie team,
Yeah.
they trump my whole list. But
Yeah.
I don't know if we can because they didn't have an actual like
Yeah.
movie.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I would say probably not from that standpoint because yeah, it's just I know what you mean. Yeah, I would say no, probably not. But
So
if we could, yeah,
if we
I know what
could,
you're saying there. Yeah, they definitely
they,
would be one
you
that would
know,
have the ability to be on the top of either one of our lists. I think
right.
they would have made my list too because I kind of looked at them. I was like, no, I don't think it's gonna work. But yeah, no, I agree. Yep.
And again, everybody, there's plenty. I know you're probably, well, why? These are our lists.
Yeah.
We have different
Yeah.
criteria. We do not talk about these lists prior to the show. We do not know what each other's lists are until we
Right.
reveal them. And you
And
can,
you debate them, whatever. I mean, there are some people who had like the team from Varsity Blues really high, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay, it's James Vanderbeek. Come on, people, no way.
yeah,
So I mean, yeah, you can debate it however you'd like. There's a team from one of your favorite movies, the Miami Sharks, that did not
right, yep,
make the list, but you know, yeah, you could debate that. They'd be high on some people's lists. So, or the Mighty Ducks or whatever. I mean, whatever.
right. I mean,
That's yeah, yeah,
there's so many of them that you
right.
can sit there and debate about. But we got five. Our lists are five,
That's
and
it.
that's what we stick to.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, so that is our third installment of our top five, um, and we'll have a new top five next week. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I'm liking this quite a bit. I think it's
Yeah,
fun.
it's a good fun way to end the show. Um, breaks up the seriousness of some of the topics we have to talk about.
Right.
So, but that's all I have, Lone Wolf, unless you have anything.
The only other thing I will say is, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Nobody makes me bleed my blood.
Nobody.
All right. With that, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Our live viewership. It's a Friday night, so usually on our Friday nights we don't get a ton of live audience, which is
Right, in
fine.
comparison to the Thursdays, yeah.
So thank you everybody for downloading and listening to the show in the future. Hope you enjoy it. Have fun, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Have a good night.